Saddiq Bey has been struggling mightily this season. We're going to talk about what's going wrong with Saddiq Bey and a bunch of other things with a guest I have today on today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. This episode is brought to you by Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. Scaling your business is a journey of endless possibilities, so start now at shopify.com/LockedOnNBA, all lowercase. Once again, thank you for listening to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Thank you for making it your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And again, if you guys want to find the best way to support the podcast, support the work I put into the podcast, head over to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. We are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We're at around, I think, 680 right now. So again, help me get the podcast over on YouTube to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. It's the best way to support the podcast, so I'd really appreciate it. And I forgot to tell you guys, I'm your host, Kuka Hill, per usual. You can find me on Twitter at Kuka Hill. And on today's podcast, we're going to be talking about Saddiq Bey and what's going wrong with him. It's been, a tough season for Saddiq. He's coming off probably what was in, possibly his worst game of the season against the Portland Trail Blazers. And to discuss all these things with me, we'll also talk a little bit, if we have time at the end, Killian Hayes and Cade Cunningham's tandem, the backcourt. And hopefully we have enough time to talk about Isaiah Stewart as well. But I have one of my close friends on Twitter and the host of the Busted Header podcast, Hal. How you doing, man? Thank you for coming on.
I'm glad to be back. The video format's new. I'm gonna have to get used to that. No picking your nose on camera. All that stuff. Can't show up in a bathrobe anymore. Got to at least dress from the top down. So
yeah. It's an adjustment, but it's a good adjustment. It's a good adjustment, though. You see, Hal, if you guys watch this on YouTube, I think Hal has a better background setup than I do. I just got like a plain background. So at least Hal got something in the background. I ain't got nothing.
All the books shelves.
Books
some
are
nice Horace art.
Books are better than plain backgrounds. I'll say that. But anyways, let's get into Saddiq Bey. So I've talked about Saddiq Bey a lot on the podcast, as all you listeners know. We spent a large amount of time talking about Saddiq Bey. You guys know how critical I was of him in the offseason, what I thought, or not critical of him, but critical of how I thought they were approaching his development in the offseason. And yes, I'm wearing a headband if you guys are watching this on YouTube. Hal told me I looked like Spencer Rattler before we started recording.
You're wearing that Oklahoma red, buddy.
So you guys got to let me know if you guys agree with something like that. But anyways, Saddiq Bey, he's been struggling. You guys know what I've said about him in the offseason, about how I was critical of his development, how they were going about it. Through the first 4 games of the NBA season, it looked like it was starting to work. I came on here, I told you guys that I'll eat my words. It was working for him. He averaged 18.3 points a game. He was shooting 47% from the field, 30% from 3. But, he was showing improvement from 2-point range, getting to the rim, decision-making. He was averaging, like I said, 18.3 points and 9.5 rebounds through the first 4 games of the season. I was coming on here giving him his props. Ever since then, we have a 17-game sample size of him shooting 32% from the field, 28% from deep, 76% from the free throw line. He's down to 11.2 points a game, and his overall just on the court, if you want me to be honest, if I was being objective, I would flat out say he's probably looked straight up bad on the basketball court. Hal, I've spent a lot of time talking about what I think's going on with him, what's up with him. So I'll give you the floor first to talk about what you think is wrong with Saddiq Bey so far over the last 17 games, and is there a way do you see this being able to fix itself moving forward? Are you worried a little bit about him moving forward? Just what's your overall thoughts about what we're seeing right now from him?
I think for the large part, it's rooted in him trying to change his shot. He just seems like he's got real confidence issues right now. Compared to last year, you can see that he's really trying to get like a more traditional angle on his elbow and kind of on his release. And he's changed his footwork a little bit on the jumper. And I just think he's in that mode, right now where it's not consistent and he's not hitting enough. And I think he's letting it affect, the rest of his offense. In this last Portland game, just the first couple plays of the game, he's swinging passes, and he got assists off them. They weren't terrible plays, but he was swinging passes to other guys off shots that were wide open for him, right? He was turning down wide open looks. And, last year's Saddiq Bey, it was more of a hey, maybe like slow it down a little bit, buddy, kind of a situation. So, I think a lot of it's rooted in that, and then he's trying to find other stuff to get himself going, and he just doesn't have, he's just isn't ready to do that. He's not really the guy you want creating off the dribble. He's doing these post back downs that just kind of end up in ugly shots. He had range well a lot, and he's just not that kind of mid-range scorer yet. So I think it's just because the shot isn't working, and I think actually people are starting to kind of notice and not close out on him as strong as they were last year. And I think because that, it's just a chain reaction of things going wrong for him on the court, and it's affecting his decision making and kind of how everyone around him is playing as well.
So we'll stick with it. I told Hal before we started recording that this is probably going to carry us into the second segment. So we're going to spend probably the first 15 minutes or so talking about this, because I think it's probably the biggest topic going on right now outside of Kay Cunningham, who is basically the biggest topic all the time. But outside of that, I think Saddiq Bey's struggles right now, I think, are at the forefront of every Pistons fan's mind right now. So we'll stay with the decision making in the first, like you mentioned. I've noticed this, and I've said it on the podcast a few times as well, and you brought it up, that there seems to be, and me and you kind of disagreed on a clip I used last week. But even outside of that clip, I feel like he's running away from open threes too much. Like you said, he's passing up open shots that he usually would take last year. And there's been a few plays, and I'm sure some people will disagree with this. For me, I don't like seeing it. I don't think it works for him. But there's too many plays as well where he had one, I believe it was like 2 games ago. He did it like 3 or 4 times. I really hated it. Where he would, instead of spotting up, he would catch the ball almost as if he had already decided before he caught the ball that he was going to try to drive to the lane before he caught it. And it's like it completely eliminates the option of a catch and shoot scenario, where I believe he would be better as if he were to simply attack closeouts off of catch and shoots. If he wanted to attack them, try to attack the rim off of closeouts, then I think he would be better served. But immediately trying to cut into that, I feel like takes away what is supposed to be a strength and what he's supposed to be utilizing to bring other parts to his game. So I don't like that he's doing that. And again, there's been many times where it seems like he's just running away from open shots. There was one play against the Los Angeles Lakers. We talked about this on the podcast a few days ago. I think it was Corey Joseph who kicked out to him on the left wing. LeBron, not wanting to play defense. They're old. They don't want to play defense. They want to move. And LeBron's like sagging off 5 feet off of him. And Saddiq doesn't shoot the ball. He just catches it and just like doesn't shoot. And it's like, what's going on? Because last year, like you said, he's letting that fly. If you give him any kind of space, like you said, it got to a point where it was more so maybe we need to reel him in a little bit because he's starting to get a little crazy with it. Now it's, can you please shoot the ball? Like, can you please take an open shot? So it's his decision making. It has been rough. It has been. I do think that has a lot to do with his struggles. But I think there's a lot of other things that are going into his struggles as well that we'll talk about a little bit coming up. Lastly, I want to say, when we were talking about his decision making, I will say this. I feel like his passing has gotten better this year, but it's almost like it almost doesn't matter for me to a point because of how badly he's struggling everywhere else. I compared it to another former Piston, which we're starting to run a little bit longer than I wanted to in the first segment. So we'll carry this over to the second segment. I'll tell you guys who the former Piston was that I compared this to, and we'll hear Hal's thoughts furthermore on Saddiq Bey and other parts of his game that I feel like is holding him down and what he's struggling mightily with. But that will happen when we come back from the ad break. But first, I got to tell you guys about some of our sponsors. First up, let me tell you a little bit about Shopify. In case you didn't know, Shopify is a complete commerce platform that lets you start, grow, and manage a business. The subscription-based software allows anyone to set up an online store and sell their products. Shopify store owners can also sell in physical locations using Shopify POS, our point-of-sale app, and accompanying hardware. Shopify gives entrepreneurs the resources once reserved for big businesses, so upstarts, startups, and established businesses alike can sell everywhere, synchronize online, in-person sales, and effortlessly stay informed. Scaling your business is a journey of endless possibilities, and Shopify helps you make your entrepreneurial dreams come true. I love how Shopify has the tools and resources that make it easy for any business to succeed from down the street to around the globe. Shopify powers over 1.7 million businesses from first sale to full scale, reaching customers online and across social networks with an ever-growing suite of channel integrations and apps, including Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and more. It allows you to gain insights as you grow with detailed reporting of conversion rates and profit margins and beyond. So go to shopify.com/LockedOnNBA, all lowercase, for a free 14-day trial to get full access to Shopify's entire suite of features. Grow your business with Shopify today. Go to shopify.com/LockedOnNBA right now. That's shopify.com/LockedOnNBA. Then let me tell you about another one of our sponsors, TrueBill. Do you want to know why free trials renew without your consent? It's a business scam out to get you. Don't let greedy corporations pocket your money. Download TrueBill to take control of your subscriptions. TrueBill is the new app that helps you identify and stop paying for subscriptions you don't need, want, or simply forgot about. On average, people save up to $720 a year with TrueBill. Because companies make subscriptions hard to cancel, TrueBill makes it incredibly simple. Just link your account, and TrueBill will cancel your unwanted subscriptions in one tap. And your TrueBill concierge is there when you need them to cancel unwanted subscriptions, so you don't have to. TrueBill also has over 2 million users, helped them save over $100 million. Don't fall for subscription scams. Start canceling today at TrueBill.com/LockedOnNBA. Go right now to TrueBill.com/LockedOnNBA. It can save you thousands a year. That's TrueBill.com/LockedOnNBA. So, again, I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. Again, if you want to find the best way to support the podcast, head over to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We're hovering right around 680 right now, so we're just a little over 300 away. I think we can get there. So again, if you want to find the best way to support the podcast and support the work I put into it, go over to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. Hal, man, those ad reads threw me off a little bit there. Cause I got a phone call. I got a phone call in the middle of it and completely threw me off my groove. It messed me up, man.
Look, between that and the Shopify one, they got you. They're hitting you with the syllables, man. It's like watching the dog obstacle course, where like the little terrier's gotta like go through all the little poles,
Yeah.
They're trying to take your feet out from under you. That's not fair.
Hey man, it's a work in progress. It definitely takes some talent to get it done. But so in the first segment, we talked about Saddiq Bey's decision making. Part of the reasons why that's contributing to his struggles. Another part that I want to bring up, which is obviously, I feel like it's at the forefront of everybody's thought process of why he's struggling, is he's trying to do more. He's trying to be a little bit of a different player. He's trying to add more to his game. And I told you guys before we went to the ad break that I was going to tell you guys who I compared this to. Now, Hal, I don't know if you'll agree with this, and I don't know if you've seen me compare it yet. So I'd love to see your live reaction to this. So I'm comparing what's happening to Saddiq right now to what we saw from Svi Mykhailiuk in his final year with the Pistons. You could tell throughout the year, that he had worked on his overall game. You could see that he got marginally better at driving to the rim. He got marginally better passing the ball. He got marginally better at all the things outside of his game. And that was supposed to contribute to what was already supposed to be what his strength was, three-point shooting. It was supposed to like round out his game a little bit and be like the side dishes. That's the best way I should describe it. His main course was his shooting, but he needed some side dishes, and he started to bring some side dishes to the table. But what happened was, you know what? This is actually a perfect example. What happened was you showed up to the Thanksgiving dinner, Hal. You showed up to the Thanksgiving. You got the sweet potatoes, you got the mashed potatoes, you got the green bean casserole, you got all that stuff. And you sit down, you're like, okay, where's the meat? Where's the turkey? Where's the ham? And it's like, oh, we threw that away. We don't have that. But we got all the, we got a little bit of sweet potatoes, we got a little bit of mashed potatoes, all that stuff. But we don't got no meat. That's what happened to Svi in his final year at the Pistons. Everything else looked like it got a little bit better, but it didn't matter because his main course wasn't there. I feel like that's what's happening to Saddiq right now. Except I would argue that his side dishes aren't as tasty as what people want to be. But I think that's what's happening to him right now.
You be careful with these metaphors now.
He has a bunch of these side dishes right now that he's trying to add to the table. But in the process of doing that, he's completely knocked the turkey off the table. Not the turkey's bad. So do you think that has something to do with it? What do you think about my comparison there to what happened with Svi in his final year?
I don't dislike it. I think it's pretty fair. In a pretty similar situation. I think it kind of works like that. You need an advantage in basketball, right? It's as simple as that. Something has to create an advantage, and then you try and attack the advantage, and things just kind of chain from there. And for guys like Saddiq, that advantage is usually coming off the catch, right? It's somebody else has created something. You're attacking a closeout. You have a closeout. And right now he's operating without an advantage because he's not shooting. And so, this is what I said kind of in the first bit is everything kind of cascades off that where he's thinking, okay, I don't want to shoot this three. I'm more comfortable with my mid-range shot right now. And so he's, attacking a closeout that maybe isn't as aggressive as it was last year. And then, he's taken 2 dribbles and pulling up in the mid-range, except he's not good at the mid-range yet. It's not really ever been his shot. So yeah, he's improved in his ball handling for sure. He's definitely a better passer. And I think maybe even a more willing passer than he was last year. But at the same time, he's not working with the same advantages he had last year. And because of that, maybe he's a better passer, but if he's not forcing a rotation because he's not as much of a threat, we don't get to see it.
Exactly.
Right? Maybe he's improved. Right now, he doesn't have the opportunity to get to the rim. He's not able to create that for himself. So he just, like you said, he has to find those things to anchor, his skill set. And obviously his outside shooting has to be that. And then he can let the rest of it grow from there. If he doesn't have that the trunk of the tree, nothing can branch out of it, right? He doesn't have that central thing right now. And hopefully he gets some confidence and he starts hitting some shots. And I think once that happens, I think we'll see, a big leap from him because the rest of the stuff is stuff he has worked on. He is learning, lessons in playmaking, right? He's learning lessons in processing from what he's done so far this year. It's just hard for him to put those lessons into regular practice because he doesn't have, the shot to round it all out.
So, me and you have talked about this before, and I feel like you quote, actually not feel like, I know you quoted one of my tweets earlier about this. And I feel like me and you were probably some of the heavier guys about this and like champion this throughout the offseason. I really wanted Saddiq, and all my listeners know, if you listened at all throughout the offseason, what I wanted Saddiq to work on was making himself even more of a deadly three-point shooter, movement threes, coming off pin downs, all those kind of things. I feel like that, would have elevated him more than him, being let's say he was like a poor guy off the dribble last year. Let's say he was poor, everything else. Elevating that from poor to below average, I feel like him elevating himself from a good to great shooter would have been more a better thing for him and better thing for the team. So I just want to bring this up real quick. So last season, his average distance on field goal attempts were 19 feet. If you want to take a guess right now, what do you think his average distance on field goal attempts is right now?
14 feet.
Well, I would say you're a little close. It's at 15 and a half feet. So
okay.
Majority of his shots are closer to the rim now. He's shooting awful from all these areas right now. He's shooting and to boost your point about him from the mid range right now, he's shooting 25% from 10 to 16 feet. He's shooting 25% from 16 to 3-point area, and he's shooting 28% from deep. So he's not shooting the ball well from anywhere. So I just feel like that if he would have, I won't say that maybe it was a waste of an offseason, right? I won't say that. But, I feel like that they really did work on the wrong areas with Saddiq this offseason or this past offseason. I really think that they should have, just because I feel like it also just wasn't realistic for him to be able to do all these things anyways in the offense. They already have Killian Hayes. They have Kay Cunningham. They have Jeremy Grant in the lineup. They can't have, I tweeted this a few weeks ago and talked about it on the podcast. You can't have 5 people trying to create their own shot every time they touch the ball. Everyone has to have a role. Everyone has to know what they have to do, and everyone has to fall back sometimes. Like, not everybody can be the ball handler. Not everybody can go out there and create a shot. Not everyone should be doing it. So it was never, for me, it was never realistic to expect him to be able to do that. And to be honest, I don't think you should have really wanted him to do this. And I feel like it's hurt his game overall because, obviously it has to do with him not shooting well from deep. But I feel like the other things with him, not taking open shots or, like I mentioned, where he's like running to cut to the basket before even, waiting to see if a closeout comes. He's catching the ball already moving to the basket. I feel like all of these are coming from, him trying to showcase that he has other parts of his game now. And it's like, no one really cares about these other parts of your game because the part that made you like really good and intriguing prospect was the fact that you were, you had the build to be a 3-and-D guy. And, before, and I said this on Twitter as well, you know, to try to bring, here's another metaphor, another comparison. We're doing really good with these right
Oh
now.
boy.
We're doing really good with these. All right, so Hal, did you? And after this, we'll go to break and we'll give you the floor to open the final segment. But Hal, did you watch Jimmy Neutron growing up at all?
Of course, I watched Jimmy Neutron going up.
Okay, so do you remember the villain that he used to go against that would he'd create these super amazing objects, but he would never finish the object, so that would always cause him to lose.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Okay, that's what Saddiq Bey is right now. He had the build of the 3-and-D. He had, that was his build right there. But he wasn't that good on defense. Most rookies aren't, but he wasn't good on defense. And he wasn't, an elite shooter. He wasn't coming off screen shooting. He wasn't movement threes or anything. So he hadn't developed the build that he had. He hadn't developed that. He hadn't gotten to that point, to where you should be trying to extend everything. He was over here trying to, create, little parts for his machine. The machine wasn't even finished building yet. So that's where Saddiq is right now for me, and that's what makes it frustrating for me. Because I feel like if you wanted to do this, that's fine. But, we had fans and we had people saying that he was Paul George after his first season. He can be Paul George. Let's see him do it. And it's like, dude, we haven't even seen him, has Saddiq taken an off ball? I don't think I can remember him ever taking a movement off screen three in his career. I'm sure he's probably taken one. Yeah, I'm sure he's probably taken some, but I can't remember any. So it's he need to get those things down and add those parts to his game before he started trying to, add a completely different facet of his game before he even developed the core strength of his game. But we're gonna go to the ad break real quick, and then I'll let Hal come back and tell me what he thought about my metaphor right there, if it was a good one or not. But first, I gotta tell you guys a little bit about another one of our sponsors, BetOnline AG. BetOnline has you covered all season for more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football season continues to march to the playoffs. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. Head to their new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and it's easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. So again, head to their new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And again, if you want to find the best way to support the podcast, go over to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Even if you don't like the visual version, you like the podcast version, trust me, I don't blame you. But simply to support the podcast, hit the subscribe button over there. I'd really appreciate it. But Hal, you have the floor, man. What do you think about my metaphors out there? I threw some Jimmy Neutron out there at you. I threw Thanksgiving out there at you. I threw a lot out there, man. I think this might be my most creative episode. I'm not gonna lie.
He's very proud of himself. Look at him. He's glowing. I think the one thing for me is we don't want to treat him as a finished product, right? Yes, I think this is very clearly a step back in what he's producing right now. That doesn't inherently mean that his development is going backwards, right? If the shot comes back and if everything opens up for him and these mistakes become growth points for him, then we're going to reap the benefits in the future. He doesn't necessarily have to be just Jay Crowder, right? Until he's ready to do all this stuff, and then suddenly he becomes, Paul George, right? It's going to be a gradual process. There's going to be, pitfalls along the way. So it's not a bad thing for him to work on multiple skills and develop multiple skills in concert. It just so happens that this is the sophomore slump, right? He saw what he needed to work on as a rookie, and that process isn't going to be linear, and it's not always going to be easy or comfortable or aesthetically pleasing. I hope we're not developing wrong habits from a processing standpoint, and I don't think we're developing the worst things as long as he doesn't continue to be this shot shy. But part of it is a lot of other rookies, right? Got to be patient. They're not going to be, even though he's a little bit of an older rookie, you're still not going to be, who you are at 27, at 23. It's just not who you're going to be. So we gotta give him that time, and hope that the work he's putting in behind the scenes pays off, right? And a lot of that stuff that he is working on is practice rep stuff, right? He's going to rebuild the jump shot. You need to put in, thousands and thousands of jumpers. After you figure out what you want to do with your new shot, you got to practice it thousands of times. And I'm sure he's only 20% of the way there, whatever it is. We just got to be patient and wait for that to come to fruition. Hopefully it does.
All right, so we talked about enough about what's wrong with Saddiq. How can he get back on track this season? How can he get back on track, not just for himself, but for the team? Because I feel like you're starting to see some of the frustrations with Cade and Killian specifically. I saw them after the last game. Usually they always shake hands after the game. Both of them pissed off, went straight to the locker room. They were very angry. I saw Cade. It looked like he was swearing underneath his breath. The team's not good right now, and Cade specifically is not used to being on awful teams. He's not used to losing 8-9 games in a row. He's not used to that.
Just a reminder for people, Cade was probably on the best high school team of all time. That Montverde team that he with Scotty Barnes and Moses Moody, like that was he's basically never lost more than like a game in a row in his life. This is a new experience for Cade.
Yeah, so I think from an overall team perspective, like they didn't expect to make the play-in, but I don't think they expected it to be this bad. Maybe they expected it to, their record to be around this area, but like how it's getting to this record, I don't think they expected it to be like that. So, how does Saddiq get back on track? I think Saddiq getting back on track and trying to help the team more will help them be competitive in more games. Not win games. I don't think they're going to win many games, but be competitive in games and keep games close to where they feel better about themselves and they're not getting blown out by 20-plus points to a Portland Trail Blazers team that doesn't have their best player and is one of the worst defensive teams in the league, and you can't even crack 95 points. So how does Saddiq get back on track to help the team? Because he had his minutes cut a lot this last game. He only played 26 minutes. He was a team worst, minus 13. So what can he do to get back on track to try to help this team, help Cade, feel better about where they're at?
I think, it's a lot of confidence for him. So I think part of it is just, paring it down and trying to keep it a little simpler. When Killian and Cade are both out there with him, you're going to have a lot of easier offense for you, right? That's just what you get when you get two guys who are more playmakers like that. So let the game come to you a little bit more. I think he can, if he wants to post up and the staff is okay with that, do your work a little earlier, right? It shouldn't be catching it 20 feet from the rim, along in the corner and kind of walking your man down. Go get post position and call for the ball, right? Do it early, and so you don't waste clock. So just don't let plays die because you're trying stuff. If he can be decisive even while he's struggling, I think that'll just help him and the team flow together. And I think as long as they play with pace, just not necessarily play with pace in terms of lots of possessions running up and down, but playing with pace, being decisive in the half court and stuff. I think that just helps a lot of people get through rough patches like this. Cause it's not there are areas where you and I can complain about, the offense Coach Casey's running and all the scheme stuff. That's not
before you go
problem.
on, before you go on. Chauncey Billups, before the last game, said that he calls Dwayne Casey's offense "quote unquote" random, the randomness of the offense. So you guys take that for what you guys take that for what you guys. That was
I think my reply to that was the I think you should leave. Oh my God, he admitted.
Yeah, so
just
go ahead.
Okay, you saying the loud part very loud there, Tracy, but back to Saddiq. I don't think this is one of those issues, right? I don't think it's not like he's not getting the open looks. This is a confidence thing. So he just has to find ways to give himself the easiest possible looks. Whatever he can do to get to the rim, continue doing your work in transition. And just he's one of those guys where it's like, remember to breathe once in a while. There's some of these. There was a 3-pointer he took in transition, and I think it was the Lakers game, where it's just he was on the left break and it was a wide open, like a 3v1 transition. I think Cade threw it back to him on the break, and he shot it before he ever like landed on his jump. And it was just like one of those things where it's like, you are wide open, just breathe, just take your time, do the little things, follow your processes, and just shoot the shot that you've practiced. And I think he's so worked up right now, he's not doing that. And I think sometimes you just got to work through these things, right? There's no easy solution other than just reminding yourself that you've put the work in, and you got to take the shots you're used to taking, and follow the advice of your coaches. He's not a bad player, right? That's everyone knows that he's not a bad player. He's having a bad stretch. So just do the things that got you here, and it'll come back around.
All right. So moving into the final bit of the podcast, because we are running a little bit, but I want to get all these in. We're gonna go
as
quick
always.
Takes. As always with almost everyone I have on the podcast. But
I'm sorry, lockdown people. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But we're not too bad. It's only at 31 minutes, but we'll do quick takes. But before we get to quick takes, I have to ask you one last question about Saddiq, and then we'll move on. How many games? Because Dwayne Casey said after 20 games, that's when he evaluates and may change things. How many games will it take for you, or not will it take, but how many games into the season will it be before like this stretch turns into not just a stretch, like a legit concern about Saddiq? Will it ever hit that point this season? Will it have to be like longer?
I don't think there's going to be a point where I say, oh my God, it's just like he's always going to be a terrible player. Like it could be a whole season where nothing clicks. We've seen that with guys before. I'm not going to worry about it too much. It's unfortunate if it happens, but I'm not in the, we talk about sample size all the time. And in reality, a single season, even as long and arduous as these, 20 win seasons feel, it's not really that big a sample size, right? He's going to play like 600 NBA games in his career. If, 50 of them are slogs like this, so be it.
All right, fair enough. I'll simply say this. I just want to bring this to the table. This is the only reason why my concern level on a scale of 1 to 10 is at 3. Bryce at Motor City Hoops. You guys probably already saw this, but if you didn't, I'll describe it to you. He put up a graph. He went through like the last, top best shooting rookies from beyond. I think it was the top 10 list of made 3-pointers by rookies and their following seasons. And Saddiq's on that list, and he put all their struggles in their second season. And I believe there was only 4 ones who had a downfall. One of them was Shamit, who went from like 41 to 39. So I mean, it's not like he dropped from like excellent to great or something. But the only other person who's had this big of a drop off so far. Now, obviously Saddiq could turn it around, but so far, the only other NBA player who has had this big of a drop off from the rookie season to second is Kyle Kuzma. And I don't think anyone wants him to be Kyle Kuzma. Not saying he will be, but that's why my concern level has got me up to a 3. If he doesn't like turn it around, I'd say like midway through the season at some point.
Is that Flint slander? Is that what I hear? That's Flint slander.
It is Flint slander. I will openly say that Kyle Kuzma is a weird dude, and he's not that good of a player. Just nah, bro. It's just nah. But okay, quick takes. We'll try to get this done in 4 minutes. All right, Hal. First quick take. Killian Hayes, Cade Cunningham backcourt is the best duo of any duo having Cade Cunningham in it that's played at least 120 minutes on the season. What do you take away from that? Are you happy with what you've seen from that backcourt?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy. Minus they're at the top of the list, right? I think they're learning to work together. We see it on defense. We see how much when Killian was out, we saw how much easier Cade's job got when he came back, just in terms of not having to do so much of the simple stuff. So I'm pretty happy with it.
Cade Cunningham coming off some people may say his best game of the season. How have you felt about Cade Cunningham so far? Has he been everything you thought that he was going to be billed to be?
Yeah. Yep. I'm happy. The shot's got to keep falling. He can't get too reliant on the shot when things aren't working. but
something we've talked about on the podcast before. We keep going.
Yep. But at the same time, I don't think he should be driving all the time. Like I think it's good for him to just keep the workload, relatively stable throughout the season. This is all about learning. He doesn't have to go, balls to the wall all the time, getting to the rim. So I'm pretty happy. This is what you want to see out of your rookie is pretty stable production.
Isaiah Stewart coming off a double-double against the Portland Trail Blazers, his first double-double of the season. He has had a pretty tough second season. People are questioning his fit with the starting lineup. I am one of those people. The Pistons, the worst. The Pistons at their worst when Isaiah Stewart was on the floor. When I checked it yesterday, they were a -13 difference on off, -13 when he's on off the floor. Whatever, you get what I'm saying. It's the worst on the team. Are you worried about his fit in the starting lineup? And do you think the Pistons need to go? It should big men be something they go after at some point, either if it's this season at a trade deadline or in the free agency this following season?
I think you definitely need a rim pressure option on the team. You need the jumpy jump guy, as Last Chance calls it. It's just something you have to have. I do think there are ways that Stewart can be more useful on this team. Just a few little schematic changes, and that doesn't even involve him learning to shoot. I think that's coming, but that's going to be a long process. But yeah, a lob threat changes geometry, right? More wrinkles to an offense is always better.
All right, and then the final one. Saddiq Bey has been struggling. We just spent the whole time talking about that. Some fans are saying, and I won't say I was saying bench Saddiq. I was not saying bench Saddiq, but I was saying cut some of his minutes for Hamidou Diallo, who seemed to have been playing much better. Do you think Hamidou Diallo should be given more run at the expense of Saddiq Bey's minutes right now with how he's played?
I think Frank Jackson's probably the one that should get those minutes, to be honest with you, just because I think Frank's especially if we're talking about like the starter minutes, if you were to make any kind of move, then it's like, okay, Frank fits really well with the Killian Cade combo as that floor spacer. I think Hami's definitely earned some minutes, but at some point, you don't have enough to go around. I do think that he's getting more of his minutes at the 4 right now. And I actually really like what he provides as that option at the 4.
All right. That was it. I think we did get it done in under 5 minutes. So, Hal, thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Hal, let them know where to find you, your podcast, you on Twitter, all the stuff you do. Well,
if you're on YouTube, and you should subscribe, you can see the handle right there on the YouTube.
Yep, there you go. There you go.
Yeah. At Halberdius on Twitter. You can find the podcast, The Busted Header. We did just talk about some of the way Stewart can improve and Luka Garza can improve and Cade and Killian. That should be dropping pretty soon here. And thanks for having me on, as always. I appreciate it. This was fun.
Absolutely. It's always fun to have you on, Hal. It's always fun. I think we got your count up to like 4 or 5 now. How many times you've guessed on the podcast? I think that's where you're at.
Bryce is just blowing me away. It's not fair.
But
I've been lapped.
But thank you guys again for listening, man. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hal's a great person to have on here. He's a great follow on Twitter. He threads each game with clips throughout the entirety of the games. It's a great thing. If you guys want to keep up with the game on Twitter and have like some deep dives into it throughout the game, Hal's your guy. Make sure you guys go follow him on Twitter and definitely check out his podcast.
Thank you.
I saw him tweets on a few hours ago talking about his podcast seems to be doing better numbers recently. Go ahead, everyone, make sure to go keep that going.
Better than 0, that's for sure. Spotify was telling us we had a 999% increase. We weren't a podcast really last year, so
there you go. Great. There you go. Everyone go check out his podcast. But thank you guys for listening to today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. Thank you for making it your first listen. And again, if you want to find the best way to support the podcast, head over to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. Even if you don't like watching the visual version, just to support the podcast, help us get to 1,000 by the end of the year. Hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Follow me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. Enjoy the game tonight at 9 o'clock. It's a little bit better than 10 o'clock than it was against Portland. I'm still going to be dead tired. But, enjoy that game tonight and go Pistons. See you guys later.